Welcome back to Make Money Online. Today we'll be looking at the controversial news popping up from an alert of a whopping amount of XRP being transferred on exchange giant Coinbase. Like and subscribe to this channel for more interesting videos. On December 30th, 2020, it was reported that Coinbase was sued by the SEC for permitting illegal XRP sales and charging trading commissions fees from those sales. Prior to that, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Regulator initiated an official legal complaint against Ripple itself and its two high-profile executives, CEO Brad Garlinghouse and former CEO and co-founder Chris Larsen, for selling XRP as an unregistered security. Ripple has hired 21 lawyers to defend itself and the interest of its two CEOs in court. Their defense is one of the integrity of XRP, its investors, and that of the entire crypto industry. Coinbase had announced in a publication that it would halt the trading of the coin pending its initial public offering, as it would not want to be found peddling illegal securities, according to financial regulators such as the SEC. This, coupled with a host of other exchanges, spelt what people considered to be the death of XRP as a crypto. The pulsating news is that popular crypto tracking service Whale Alert detected a mammoth XRP transaction, almost 100 million XRP. The Whale Alert has been credited over the years for reporting massive movement of huge amounts of any crypto coin. The anonymous crypto whale has transferred a staggering 99.9 million XRP to the largest US-based exchange, Coinbase. That is the crypto equivalent of $26,766,003 in fiat at the present XRP exchange rate. XRP is looking weaker than the other altcoins as the rate of the crypto has risen by only 1.8% over the past 24 hours. On the hourly chart, XRP is about to rise in the short-term scenario as buyers' power is confirmed by high liquidity. Thus, the selling trading volume is low, which means that potential growth is possible to the local resistance at 27 cents. Here, XRP-USD has the same setup we've already spoken about. We have a beautiful M formation on the weekly time frame, which we expect to complete at the neckline. On the daily market is a historical demand zone for this crypto, and it's accumulating as expected. We've also formed a nice inverted head and shoulders, giving us more confluence. We're still at the moment bearish on the daily, as we're below daily resistance and below the daily trend line. We first need to see a daily close above both, then on the retest we can look for entries to long. As we drift closer to February, we hope to see a more dynamic progression to the XRP price trend, with the chart projecting the price target through the green zone to a height above 30 cents. The zone becomes a support zone for the price, to which it predicts that it will fall to and then bounce back up to hit a whopping target of 45 cents, as indicated by the black dashed line capping the red arrow. This chart shows a fractal analysis of XRP-USD. We're looking at the 2-day time frame perspective, the former events, the established fractal structure, how the second major fractal can develop, and what we can expect in the upcoming future. XRP-USD in November 2020 has shown a strong upside pace with exaggerated and protracted bullishness to the upside, almost shooting bullishly in some weeks. Such a similar fractal was already seen in the past, and as we discovered now, XRP-USD is forming a very similar fractal that can show up with the same bullish expansion. When first looking at the overall fractal structure, we detected the three underlying phases consisting of the phase A, phase B, and phase C. In phase A, the first accumulation occurs with a descending triangle formation in the schedule inherently with waves A to E, before the breakout above the boundary shows up. Then phase B shows up with a contraction of price action and a narrower price range in which a wave count from 1 to 5 shows up. Here the bulls gain strength to certainly build up for the final phase, which is the phase C, in which a complete bullish expansion happens, unfolding in a 1 to 5 wave count to the upside with strong bullish movements and protracted bullishness to the upside. Now, when looking at the current fractal and the situation, we can see that XRP-USD is already in the last stages of phase A, as it's already formed the descending triangle and the coherent wave count within the triangle, with the last wave E forming and remaining. This is why we can expect the phase B to start when XRP-USD finally completes the wave count and forms the breakout above the boundary. In this case, a very similar phase B is possible compared to the first fractal. When such a price action shows up, it will only be a matter of time till the final fractal C shows up with the final expansion, and strong bullishness to the upside, showing these extreme volatile movements we've seen before. It will be an interesting journey to see if the support zones will trigger enough upward momentum. In this analysis, we're looking at the hourly time frame perspective, the recent events, the established formational structure, and what we can expect in the upcoming times. XRP-USD, since initiating a bearish impulse to the downside, is now trading in a decisive formation that will determine the further outcomes in upcoming times. In this case, we should not underestimate the bearish perspective, as when this formation completes, it can show up with such when XRP-USD does not manage to hold successive supports. Looking at the chart, we can see here how XRP-USD is now forming this huge ascending channel formation marked in the chart with blue boundaries, and the coherent wave count established within the formation already completing waves A and B within the structure. And now with the last wave C remaining, which will run directly into the upper resistance cluster marked in red, where several strong resistances coming together consisting of the 550 EMA in green, the 600 EMA in red, and the upper boundary in blue. When XRP-USD moves into this cluster, there's a high possibility given for a bearish pullback to the downside, first testing the previous support again. Taking all these factors into consideration, XRP-USD is in a situation where it will show up with the major decision once the whole wave count completes and the pullback from the resistance cluster shows up. If XRP-USD doesn't manage to hold the lower boundary support marked in the orange box, this will lead to a completion of the ascending channel as a bear flag and activation of downside targets. This scenario is not unlikely at the moment, and it should not be underestimated, especially as XRP-USD can show up with strong volatility when completing such formations. We'll see how this dynamic plays out ahead, and it's important here to be prepared for such possible changes in direction. If the ongoing lawsuit goes in Ripple's favor, then it will be an understatement to assume that XRP's price would go up by 5 or 6 times by the time it ends. Alternatively, there are claims that XRP might drop to a very low price if the litigation ends poorly and the SEC hinders Ripple's ability to fund operations entirely, forcing Ripple to shut down. This situation is unlikely, however, given the fact that Ripple is a technology company that does not rely too heavily on physical assets to run its operations. In the worst-case scenario, Ripple can expect significant disruption to its business model, and it might have to stop dealing with US-based investors, while also considering incorporating itself overseas. Ultimately, the coin is going to be fully functional in any case. UAE-based Lulu Exchange is in the news after it announced its partnership with Ripple and India's Federal Bank to facilitate faster cross-border payments from the UAE to India. The partnership between Ripple and Federal Bank, which is a leading Indian private bank, has long been rumored, with an official disclosure released by the Federal Bank doing the rounds too. However, this is perhaps the first time a partnership of such tripartite nature has been announced, especially one involving an Indian bank. Using RippleNet, cross-border remittances are expected to be significantly faster and more secure, an incredible development, especially in light of the high remittance volume between India and the UAE. The same was recently highlighted by Ashish Birla, general manager of RippleNet, after he revealed that the APAC region remains Ripple's busiest region for customer demand and transaction growth. In India alone, Ripple is working with 3 out of the 5 major banking players, with the rapidly growing MENA-India corridor likely to become Ripple's largest one so far. India is the world's top receiver of remittances, with the country's share in global remittance volumes often climbing as high as 12% in the years past. The UAE alone accounts for over $13.8 billion in remittance to India, ranking number 1 amongst all the countries in terms of inward remittances to the nation. Ripple is the first company to provide a blockchain-enabled solution to the country's remittance market. Further, according to previous reports, 20% of all transactions on Ripple's on-demand liquidity platform used XRP as a bridge currency on RippleNet. It should be noted, however, that it's clear that RippleNet will make use of Ripple's native crypto asset XRP to facilitate those cross-border transactions. The stage is set for XRP to find more effective use from these partnerships. Analysts have hope that XRP will in one way or another come out good on its word this year, with some analysts suggesting that in 2021, XRP might touch the $2 mark, while another suggests smooth period despite the lawsuit for Ripple, as there will be an addition to the partnerships and new technologies, which might surge its price even higher. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and click on that notification bell. How do you think this lawsuit is going to affect Ripple and XRP? Let us know your answers in the comments below. While you're here, go ahead and click on one of the videos on your screen. See you next time.
That's how it goes. Hollywood card.